meeting. So welcome everybody to our 101st year of serving our community. We have another great program happening today, and Jessica will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Great, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And with that, we have inspirational words from Shani.
Okay. Excuse me.
Thanks, Shani.
So I am reading from a book that I picked up several years ago, and it is entitled, How Many People Does It Take to Make a Difference? One song can spark a moment, one flower can wake the dream, one tree can start a forest, one bird can herald spring, one smile begins a friendship, one hand clasp lifts a soul, one star can guide a ship at sea, one word can frame the goal. One vote can change a nation, one sunbeam lights a room, one candle wipes out darkness, one laugh will conquer gloom. One step must start each journey, one word must start a prayer. Our hope will raise our spirits, one touch can show you care. One voice can speak with wisdom, one heart can know what's true, and one life can make a difference. And that difference starts with you.
Very good. Thank you, Shani. So I'm going to hop to bell ringers and Dale Penn. If anyone has a guest or if there are visiting Rotarians, if you let me know via chat while Dale's doing bell ringers, we'll introduce those folks. So Dale.
Sure, thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to start off actually with bell ringers today with one of my own, and this is one I think you'll hear from bell ringers going forward. But I would like to ring the bell in support of our 2020 bell ringer goal. The bell ringers committee would ask that members consider donating all or a portion of their $14 lunch you would have purchased at a live meeting towards bell ringers this week. You can champion a cause, celebrate a victory, or applaud a colleague, and help the club continue doing good things in the community. Please ring the bell. All right, next one. Adam Kohler would like to ring the bell for Kim Lemon. Those of you who know Kim know her for her infectious smile, her limitless energy, and for her laugh, which brightens up a room in mere seconds. Adam agrees with all of those sentiments and also has appreciated Kim for the many other things that she has brought to their friendship over the years. And now Adam would like to add one more reason to appreciate Kim. She made the wise decision to hire Adam's amazing wife, Mackenzie, to join the team at the St. Francis shelter. Adam appreciates that Kim hired Mackenzie for her skills, knowledge, and wonderful caring personality, but he would also like to take a moment to recognize how quickly Kim and the team have welcomed Mackenzie into the fold. And as an added bonus, Adam now has an additional incentive to promote Kim's upcoming fundraising venture. Please consider participating in the upcoming 10th anniversary of Saddle Up, which is going to be September 13th at 5:30. Please ring the bell. Adam would also like to ring the bell for Robin Kerner. Those of you who know Robin, well, you know Robin. Those of you who haven't had the pleasure yet, you're in for a treat when we can finally all meet together again in person. Robin didn't think that Adam would ring the bell to acknowledge her sense of humor and the overall joy that she brings to the club. Typical Robin. Please ring the bell again. That's 2 for Adam. Thank you. And the next one, Steve Horning would like to ring the bell for the members of this club's program committee. There was a little angst on the part of the president-elect with several open spaces on the program calendar starting at the end of this month through September and into October. We had Steve had their program meeting last Friday, and this committee really stepped up and quickly filled those empty spaces halfway into October. And not just filling with any program, they are socially engaging, important topics in our current state of COVID disruption. This group of leaders exemplify Rotary and the power of working together. Okay, let's make it a double bell ringer. Please ring the bell twice for quote unquote our program committee. Thank you. And now I will call out to the floor. I don't have anyone so far.
Now we're caught up. Thanks, Dale.
No problem. Thank you.
Are you seeing any additional bell ringers from the floor?
I'm not getting any messages or anything. I'll just ask people to please go to Rotary Club of Salem.
I don't know if I can be heard.
Yeah, we hear somebody, just don't know who that might be.
This is Linda Benars.
Oh, go ahead, Linda. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
We can.
I don't know if I have signal. Okay, I wanted to ring the bell for my grandson who turns 3 years old today. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can, yes, thank you.
Okay,
Ring the bell.
yeah.
That's for you, Linda.
And I want to also just kudos to my 3-year-old grandson because he's the one that has type 1 diabetes and he's a real trooper. He's just a fantastic kid.
Excellent. And then Dale, Elise has a bell ringer.
Okay, go ahead, Elise.
Oh yeah, thanks guys. So 10-year anniversary, Salem Harvest, 10 years in the making of rescuing food instead of letting it go to waste to feed hungry families in our community. 10 years, we're so excited.
Well done. Alrighty, I don't see anything else in the chat and I don't see any guests, so we'll roll on. Next up is Lauren. We're going to start doing this month is membership month for Rotary, and so we'll have a membership moment for the foreseeable weeks coming up. So Lauren, you are up.
Awesome. Thank you, President Sue. Hello, fellow Rotarians. As Sue said, I'm Lauren Gutierrez. I am the newly minted membership chair. I just remembered that this morning. I took over for Reed, who has stepped away from the club for the foreseeable future. So today we're going to talk about vetting a prospective Rotarian. I know personally when I meet people who I think would be great Rotarians, I think, oh, I got to invite them to a meeting. And my first inclination obviously is invite, tell them all about it. But my first inclination is wrong. And I imagine most of you are in the same boat. Vetting in a member first is really important because our club has a process where we put out a name for a prospective Rotarian to the entire club membership, and the club membership effectively gets to have input onto whether that person is someone who we'd like to join. So I know it seems counterintuitive. Why would I invite somebody or why would I vet them if I have not yet invited them? But I will tell you from experience, it is much easier to have a conversation with a prospective Rotarian who says, no, thanks, it's not for me, than to have a conversation when you bring them and they're very excited and then you vet them and they don't actually pass the vetting process. That's a really tough conversation to have. I know most of you have seen the emails that we get from Matt Lipkin. He sends out our vetting emails and there's a good little blurb at the bottom of that email that says vet first and then invite to be a member. So the vetting process begins with contacting Matt Lipkin, and he will send out the individual's name and where they're from and who their sponsor is or who is bringing them forward. And then everybody has 14 days to respond via email to Matt for input. And it's usually you don't have to say yes. But once somebody has gone through that 14 days and nobody has put an exception out, and any club member can have an exception for any reason, then Matt will send a notification saying that the 14 days have passed and the sponsor can now go through and bring the person into the meetings. So again, this is just something that's important for all of us to remember, respect for all of our membership so that we can get people out there and ensure that our members are wonderful, upstanding citizens and will add to our community. Any questions about the vetting process or members bringing in new members at all?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So do you regard the vetting process as a secret process? So if I receive my email from Matt saying this person's being vetted, do you think I should go out and send them a message that says, oh, I see you're being vetted. You'd make a great Rotarian. Or should I be keeping that a secret that they're being vetted?
That is a great question, Mr. Pine. I think saying secret seems a little silly. We're not a secret society, but that is important. During that 14-day period, we are, that's between us as club members. So during that time, it would be ideal to not contact that person and say, especially because if we are going through the vetting process correctly, that person doesn't know anything about Rotary. They don't know that they're being vetted. So it is very important to not go out and say, hey, I see that you're coming into our Rotary club, because they're probably going to go, huh? And again, on that other side, the tough conversation, if they say, oh yeah, I am, but then we as members don't know that somebody has raised a concern and they aren't able to continue through the vetting process, it does get a little awkward. Thank you, that was a great question. Any other questions?
Great. Thank you, Lauren. That was really helpful. A good reminder for everybody.
Yep.
Thank you.
Robin will have your next membership moment next week.
Great. Thanks so much. Again, I haven't seen any club announcements or guests or Rotarians to introduce, so we're ahead of schedule, gift of time for everyone. So I'd like to turn it over to Pam Wasson to present our speaker on the Healing Garden.
Oh, Pam, you're muted.
Now you can, right?
Yes, yes.
Good. So first of all, I'd like to introduce the virtual head table. I have two people. The first is Jen Columbus with the Oregon Community Foundation. And I'm recognizing Jen, and probably should be recognizing Shane Griggs as well, because the Oregon Community Foundation was the first foundation that gave a significant grant to help fund the Healing Garden project that we're going to be hearing about today. So thank you to the Oregon Community Foundation. The second person at the head table is Barbie Dressler. And Barbie has worked with over 20 years with Tokyo University of America, connected to Willamette University, and is an expert, very knowledgeable about all things Japanese garden and Japanese culture. So I thought that that was appropriate to invite Barbie here on the head table as well. So moving on, I am honored to introduce today's speaker, Superintendent Brandon Kelly with the Oregon State Penitentiary. Mr. Kelly has worked in Oregon's correctional field in various positions and locations for over 23 years. Since becoming the superintendent at OSP in 2016, Mr. Kelly and his team have pursued progressive approaches to prepare the adults in custody, which is the proper name for the inmates, for life after incarceration. Today, Mr. Kelly will discuss how one of OSP's 9 sanctioned clubs within the prison, the Asian Pacific Family Club, came up with the idea of constructing a Japanese-style healing garden within OSP's walls. And this garden is providing a space for the adults in custody and the staff alike to work alongside each other, to reflect in the garden, and to learn key horticultural and other kind of project-based skills for when they may be released. Mr. Kelly will also briefly discuss the new Oregon Way, a concept that is transforming environments inside prisons to be more normal and humane. And just quickly before he takes over, and I do know that he's here because I saw his picture, yay. On a personal level, I've been a community supporter with this project for the past 3 years. I've attended monthly Asian Pacific Family Club meetings at OSP, brainstormed with the adult in custodies on grants and fundraising, and held some grassroots fundraising and community awareness events outside of OSP. Altogether, the Asian Pacific Family Club has raised nearly $500,000 in cash and in-kind contributions from foundations, individuals, and businesses in time for the garden official opening, which was end of last year. So unfortunately, recently due to COVID, all of us community supporters, we haven't gone in, but I am aware that the inmates and the AACs are still able to use the prison inside or use the beautiful new garden. So with that, please join me in welcoming Superintendent Kelly. I know you're here someplace because I did see you.
Well, first off, thank you. Really appreciate you allowing me to attend and taking time out of your guys' meeting time to hear about something that we're doing here at the penitentiary that is very important to all of us that work here and all of us that live here. So as stated, we have a Asian Pacific Club came to us with an idea in 2015. They were approached by Mr. Cariso. He's the world-renowned Japanese garden designer. He's actually responsible for the design at our Portland Japanese garden. And also, if anybody's been to the Lebanon Hospital, he did a healing garden located on their grounds as well, and does design all over the world and is world-renowned and just a phenomenal artist in what he does. But more importantly, just a very moving individual, which hopefully I'll give him justice when I touch on that. But so the club approached the administration in 2015. I was here as an assistant superintendent at the time, and approached us with a concept and an idea of doing a healing garden. We had recently put in a Veterans Memorial in an area that we call the AC yard, but it's just an area outside of one of our housing units that all of the AICs walk by and staff walk by to and from different areas of the institution. So they approached us with a design. They were very innovative in their design method. They literally took a piece of construction paper, used broccoli as their vegetation, sticks, toothpicks, and did this nice little design. Was what they originally came forward before they got Mr. Cariso involved, and presented what their concept would be. And we're looking for about a 10 to 20 yard plot of that area where they could put a small koi pond and some trees and do a little garden. So we gave the approval and said, you know, move forward and let's see what we come up with. And that's when Mr. Cariso got involved, and he asked for the opportunity to meet with the executive team and sit down with us. So we sat down with Mr. Cariso, and he gave us his plan of an area, and he had expanded a little bit beyond what we had originally said and explained to us why he would need that and how moving it was for him to be a part of this project and what nature and a healing garden can do for transformation of a human being, but most importantly for somebody that's incarcerated. And that part of the meaning of a healing garden is that even beauty can come from the worst of deaths at time, or out of dirt beautiful things can grow. And the transformation of that and how that would relate to the people that were in our care and custody. So after meeting with him, he walked out, and our executive team was so moved by his presentation that we said there was no way we could say no. So we scheduled a time where we'd sit down with the Asian Pacific Club to actually talk about what it meant to them. And I got to say, in my 23 years of experience, I've never seen a presentation so well done, much less so well done by adults in custody that had limited skills or abilities at the time, that, you know, they just grabbed onto something and ran with it. And it was just remarkable. So very moving. They came up with a design. We gave them full throttle to come up with whatever they felt was important and challenge them to make us say no. Our theory was, don't ask for permission, just challenge us to say no. Well, Mr. Cariso really bit onto that. So he came back a couple of weeks later with a design and said, Mr. Kelly, I need more space. So we ended up meeting with him 3 different times, where we had the opportunity that we ended up giving him the whole area. That it was such a moving experience, and the enthusiasm and the change that we were seeing in the culture here based on just a concept really gave us hope, and really was what we're looking for here at the penitentiary. So with that, we gave them full reign to do what they wanted. They started going out seeking donations and looking for funding for this. And quite honestly, we thought it would be years down the road. We all hoped that the administration team, one of us would still be here to see it come to fruition, but never dreamed it would come together so quickly. They were able, within 6 months, to raise a substantial amount of funds to where Mr. Cariso was ready to start. The AICs received over $220,000 in private donations and grants. They received over $150,000 in kind donations. And more importantly, they raised $20,000 inside the walls of the penitentiary from donations and fundraisers they did within. And $20,000 inside of here, when the majority of individuals, are making maybe $20 to $30 a month, that for them to give that kind of money is quite impressive. So the project got approved and they started construction in May of 2019. All of the construction was done primarily by the adults in custody that live here. We had over 120 participants that were approved to be a part of the construction crew. It was overseen by Mr. Carrizo and his team. But what it did was change the culture in here, help change the culture in here at least, is that there were people from, it wasn't just the Asian Pacific Club. I guess Siri thinks I'm talking to her. It wasn't just the Asian Pacific Club that was involved. It ended up being all of the different clubs, every ethnicity, every belief system. You had everybody that most people would assume did not get along in this kind of environment. We're all working hand in hand next to each other and participating in the development and construction of our garden. So what it means to us now, and the staff, we had staff that were volunteering their time, that staff could not wait to be involved, to be a part of it. And I gotta say, it's probably the most remarkable garden I have ever seen or ever been a part of. But it is such a moving experience to see how well people could come together and work for something so beautiful inside our walls. With that, it kind of plays into what we're trying to establish here. As was mentioned, we have what we call the Oregon Way. And where that stems from is there's a few of us that had the opportunity to travel to Norway with an organization that believes in prison reform and looking at ways that we can maybe do things differently. So a captain from here and myself were able to attend, and our director and deputy director as well. But when we went over there and come back, we started an effort at what we call humanization and normalization is kind of the tag phrase to it. But what it's really about is just changing the culture of corrections and changing how we do business. We have 150 years of history here at the penitentiary. And in some ways, it's always been a us and them kind of mentality in our correctional systems or settings. And what we're trying to develop here in Oregon, and most importantly at the penitentiary, is it's a we. So oftentimes now, or anytime you hear me talk about here, and I think I started even today off with those that live here, which are adults in custody, but we talk about those that live here, those that work here, those that visit here, but we all exist here. And how can we make this the best environment for all of us to be in? And not talk about what the AICs need to do or what staff need to do, but what we need to do together to make this a better place. And yes, we all have our roles here. Those that live here have things that they need to be responsible for, and those that work here as well. But together, it's our responsibility to one another to make this the best environment possible, so that when our individuals are released out into the community, they're better prepared to transition into society and into their local communities from a community where they're used to, a normal environment. So we really do a lot of focusing on that. We focus on a lot of communication, and the garden has really given us a opportunity to have something to utilize as part of that conversation. As we could walk outside and talk to people. Hey, when there are some that think, hey, that would never be possible in a maximum security prison. And we could walk by that garden and say, nobody would ever said this was possible in a maximum security prison. And together we did it. It was not although the Asian Pacific Club was the driving factor behind it, it took the work of all the adults in custody that live here and the majority of staff that work here to make this come together. And we were able to do that. And so that's what we do. And I guess I would open it up maybe for so many questions. Otherwise, I may get going on some soapbox, and my 10 to 15 minutes might turn into an hour talking about what we do here at the penitentiary and the excitement of the changes that we have seen over the last 4 years in the culture of the penitentiary. As part of, the garden is a big part of that, and our normalization, humanization. But to hear people come into the office now and talk about, hey, I've never walked inside of the institution and had it feel so normal. I you know, having people describe the culture or the feeling of inside an institution as relaxed. I feel comfortable inside, and taking people when we could from the community inside for tours and walking out and having them look at you and say, that was nothing of what I expected. I didn't feel like I was in a prison. And that's what we're striving for, and that's what we believe we all should be striving for, and that's to include our community, because part of our normalization, humanization, and what the garden has done for us is we also want to bring the community to be more involved. Is that people don't understand or have never been exposed to or educated about really what goes inside of our correctional facilities, and that we are actually not a place full of bad people. We are a place full of a lot of good people who have made poor choices. And all of us are one poor choice away from incarceration. And if we keep that in mind as we approach our correctional settings, that we believe we're going to create a better environment and a better atmosphere for all of us. We have seen an increase in the health and wellness of those that live here and also in those that work here. We are just a better place all in all because of the things we're doing here. And the Healing Garden played a big role in that, and it was a Kickstarter, a catalyst in that, because we were, like I said, able to show the beauty in what could happen. And
Great.
Carissa was just remarkable in that.
Great, thank you, Brendan. We do have some questions. I'm going to start with Shane.
Hey, Brandon, it's Shane. It's been a while. I fondly remember the job shadowing you let me do when I first started working at DSC. But my question is, has there been any collaboration with the local nursery industry to identify the skill sets that they are looking for that possibly the AICs could then provide when they're transitioning into the workforce?
Yes, so there was a number of local nurseries that were part of the in-kind donations. And since then, we also have established a local nurseries coming in, and we have some adults in custody that are learning about how to do tree trimming, and we're doing bonsai plants. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's definitely been something that's been expanded on.
Follow-up question, is Alpha Nursery one of them?
They are not on this list, no.
They should be on your list. That would be a good one.
Okay.
They're just north of Salem, and I can hook you up if you need a contact.
Sounds good, that'd be great.
Okay, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Brendan, folks are asking if you have any photos that you could screen share with us with the garden, so we can visually understand what it looks like, feels like.
I don't have any, but if you just go on and say OSP Healing Garden, they will come up.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Pam. Brenna has a little link on the side, and I don't know if that is from the OPB recording or the Oregonian or what, but there may be some visuals in that, Brenna. If you're there.
Yeah, I just Googled it, and there's a 1-minute video that CCTV put together. If everybody is into it, I can just share my screen and play that if you want.
Yeah, please do, Brenna.
And actually, I believe that video, they just won an award for their documentary on our Healing Garden, and I think that is part of it for CCTV.
Oh, cool. Well, let's check it out.
This arrangement, different government, they are much easier and naturally accept how humble way to nature teach you. Be yourself, be good, encouraging, or still I have a hope.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. And then Mary Mertens James has a question for Brandon.
Yeah, I just wanted, Superintendent Kelly, I just wanted to thank you. And I wanted to just say a little bit about the experience that I've had in working with the correction staff and the leadership in trying to make the work that you do and the environment a better environment for the adults in custody. I think that a couple of things that I took away from the Norway trip and the experience that came back to that was, one, that it was really improving the health of the people that work there, that the stress of working in corrections can be incredible. It's one of the most stressful positions actually that people can have in work. And the comorbidity as a result of that is really, really high. And so one of the things that this new way of doing work has been, one of the advantages is that people have been able to be healthier in the workplace, who come to work and help our community, help these people improve their lives. And the second is just, it's really exciting to be able, I know this sounds odd, but when I sentence people to go to prison, it's exciting to be able to say to them that once you get there, the corrections department's main goal is to make sure that you come out a good neighbor in your community so that you can be a part of the community in a positive way. And it's amazing to me how the people that I'm sending off to prison look at me and say, really? And I say, yes, that's actually their job. And you can help them do that job. And so I just wanted to thank you for everything that you all are doing to help the people who work in our correction system, as well as the people who are participating as members of the in-custody community.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Barbie has a comment to make.
Hi, I'm Barbie Dressler. I was formerly employed at Tokyo International University of America, and we worked with the Asian Family Club back after the big tsunami in Tokyo, or in Japan in 2011. And they fundraised, I've forgotten now what the amount was, but something like $1,500 or $2,000, which they weren't sure where to donate, and someone connected them to us. And so we took their donation and applied it to some of our own to go to relief efforts. What was interesting is I got to tour the garden with Mr. Kurisu and some other folks after it had opened, and I met a lot of the same guys, good or bad, that were there, you know, from 2011 when I had met them. But they were just so proud and so, you know, just really, I guess, proud of themselves for what they had put in. And the garden's really impressive when you're there. It's a little bit weird, like you can see from the pictures, because there's all these big fences all around, and you can see people having their, not recess, but whatever time outside. All that's going on, and people are watching you, but it's a very calm and relaxing and just gorgeous area.
Wonderful. Thank you, Barbie. Are there other comments, questions? Superintendent, I see one person that wants to get your contact information. So maybe Pam can share that with your permission.
Yes, I replied to the Rotary Club of Salem and gave them my contact. So whoever got that, please feel free to share that.
Great, great. Just double checking. Could you speak a little bit, you talked about the changes, but what are some examples of individuals where you've seen with the Healing Garden and your new, oh, we have 5 raised hands, so I'm gonna defer. Pam, can you see who's got their hand raised?
Pam?
Yeah, can you see, or Jessica, can you help us out? I'm frozen right now.
I see,
oh.
No.
I see John McCulley, so let's call on John.
I have a question that's really interesting. What is the accessibility to the garden for people? Do they have to have special privileges, or can anyone just go through the garden when they're outside?
So we do it on what we call a call-out basis, because part of working with Mr. Cariso is there is a limit to the number of people you want in the garden at a time. because it is a 12-step process of going through the garden. So what we like to do is people that are interested in touring the garden, they send a communication to the Asian Pacific Club, who then they get an education on the meaning of the garden and the steps of the garden, so they understand what the garden is, can do for them. And then they're put on call out, and we do it daily, except for 2 days a week we have maintenance of the garden. But we try to let no more than 10 in there at a time, because Mr. Carrizo believes that's the proper amount for that size of a garden to be able to get the value out of transitioning through the garden. So they can go through as many times, and we just do it on a first come, first served basis and continue to do that. Once we get done with the COVID restrictions, we're also opening it up to the public. So we'll do a tour every other Tuesday with 10 individuals from the public, where the president of the Asia Pacific Club and myself will accompany the community tour to show us working together and taking people through it. So.
Thank you. Renee, you had a question?
I do. Thank you so much for this. You talk about it being moving. I got goosebumps and a lump in my throat as you were talking about the changes. But you mentioned so many changes that you have done and didn't really want to go into a lot of detail. But could you be specific about maybe 1 or 2 changes that you made that have had the most effect in changing the culture?
I think the most important would be the change. A lot of people at first were like looking at, hey, what did you give them? What did we do? And, at first it was, oh, well, we'll allow people to wear hats to and from their cell to the yard. There was a bunch of rules we would always have that we would say, well, why do we do that? Well, because one time one person did this. So it was going backwards and doing things differently. So I think what I would say it is in a prison culture, we usually manage to the 5% of people that are going to do something wrong or misuse something. And now what we do is our philosophy is manage to the 95% and mitigate the 5%. So rather than make decisions based on, well, somebody may misuse this, make a decision based on why should we allow this and who is it going to benefit? And yes, it's going to benefit the large majority of the population that lives here. And let's mitigate the risk of those that misuse it and hold those people accountable if need be. So it's really, rather than go into specific differences, it's just a mentality or a thought process change of why should we versus why we shouldn't. And that's in corrections. The first time somebody throws a new idea, it's, well, we can't because, well, now our administration here is, I don't want to hear why we can't. I want to hear about why we should. And then we'll talk about why we can't and which one outweighs. And I guess a good example would be the way we look at visits. So a lot of times our adults in custody lose their ability to visit due to a dirty UA, for example. So when they ask for a visit with their child and it comes forward, well, they don't have contact visits. It used to be just a blanket no. Now it's about, even if we're not saying we're doing the visit for the father, let's look at it from the child's perspective. We're not doing it maybe for the father, we're doing it for the child who deserves the ability to touch their father and have that interaction with their dad. And maybe that's gonna be the catalyst that changes his mentality. And sometimes we punish the loved ones for the actions of the individual, and maybe we need to look at it differently, and that's what we do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Let's see. Linda Bednars, you had your hand up. She had a little shaky. Are you there, Linda?
Yeah, I'm home now, so
got
it's a little easier. As a mental health counselor, I can't help but thinking about how the healing garden can be an important part of mental health therapy for the adults in custody. And I just was curious about the connection. I'm not sure what kinds of services are available to your adults in custody, but I'm just kind of curious if you could speak to that a little bit about, do they get therapy? Do they get a chance to tie that in to be able to use the garden in a way that can develop mindfulness, skills to help with their mental health?
So we have 3 special housing units here that are mental health based housing units. So they each get their own time to go there that we utilize. And then we also, for ours population that's in general population, they have normal access as well. But we try to, our BHS counselors here really focus on that and we have peer companions that deal with a lot of our severely mentally ill, and that we'll team them up to walk them through the garden and help utilize it. So we agree that it's a great benefit and try to work together to ensure that we get as many of our BHS AICs out there as possible, because it's been they've seen a huge result in the opportunity for them to go out and do it.
Great. And then Ron Kellerman, you had a question. Can't hear you, Ron.
Muted.
Sorry about that. I'm just curious about how your operations and the daily activities there have changed as a result of COVID.
They've changed significantly. Our ability to provide the meals has been the most impacted, because trying to provide social distancing while providing meals has been very difficult for us. So that's been the most significant change.
So how do you navigate that?
We slow down the meal, limit the number of people that are allowed to go to the meal at a time. And it just takes more time to do that. We just, as of yesterday, started requiring those that live here to wear a mask at any time. Prior to that, they weren't required to. And our staff are required to wear one now, as long at any time you can't maintain social distancing of 6 feet. But other than that, our work programs are still continuing on. Our OCE programs here are continuing on. We have just recently brought back our education programs. So they weren't here, but we started those back up last week. And as of this week, I guess we're starting to return to as normal can be right now in these times. Aside from the meals, that's our most difficult part right now.
Thank you.
Shane, did you have another question, or? No, you're good? Okay, I wasn't sure. Thank you. Superintendent Kelly, I was curious what your career track has been to get to where you are as a superintendent.
Okay, I started as a correctional officer, fresh out of the Marine Corps. I started as a correctional officer. I worked my way up from officer to sergeant, lieutenant, captain, all here at the penitentiary. And then I ventured out a little bit and went to be a security manager at OSCI, an assistant superintendent up at Coffee Creek in our intake facility, back to OSP as an assistant superintendent, and then I went over to Santiam as superintendent, and then I've been back here for the last 4 years. So I've worked my way up through the ranks here, through the security section has been the majority of my experience.
Very good, thank you. Any final questions for Superintendent Kelly before I hand it back off to Pam? I'm not seeing any raised hands in the chat box. So I'll hand it back to you, Pam, to wrap up.
Okay, so my wrap up, I guess, is just thank you, Superintendent Kelly, so much. I've met you in person several times, but not since your hair has been longer. Anyhow, and I just wanted to say kind of kudos to the executive team on the Asian Pacific Family Club, who I've gotten to know a bit, Toshio, Johnny, Scott, Walter, some others, who the first time I met them, I was so impressed with how professional they were. And I think that they've really, just over the last 3 years in the monthly meetings that they have and through this garden, these individuals and the people under them and their groups and their clubs really have gained some good skill sets in terms of presentations and all. I've been able to sit with some of them when they were having site visits from the different granting organizations like Oregon Community Foundation, Murdoch, others that came through. And I was so impressed, like you just said, Brandon Kelly, that you were so impressed when they presented to you. So it's really a wonderful group. I know that this is a growth experience for them. And some of them have said that know that they may not get out of OSP, that they still are so thrilled that this can happen for their brothers, so to speak, that they can enjoy this as well. So thank you so much. And Sue, that's all I have to say. I just thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Pam. And thank you, Superintendent Kelly. That was really interesting and just really inspiring what you and the folks at OSP have been able to accomplish, and the evolution of caring and bringing the community in. Appreciate that very, very much. So next week's meeting is Elise Bauman with Salem Harvest. She did a bell ringer earlier that they are celebrating their 10 years of, Elise, I think you said rescuing food. Is that the term you used?
That is the term I use. Yeah, we go out and we save food from going to waste and get it into hands of hungry families across our community.
Wonderful. So we really look forward to hearing from you next week. And Mark Wolf is our program chair. So with that,
we love Mark. We love Mark.
We love Mark.
Oh, and if I'm shouting out, we got to shout out Larry Connick too. We love Larry.
There you go. There you go. That's awesome. So we're really excited to hear from you, Elise. And with that, we'll wrap up our meeting, give you the gift of time, 10 minutes, and look forward to hearing from you, Elise, next week. So everybody take care. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you next Wednesday.